Guys, I've spent quite an interesting afternoon picking this lock. I've managed to pick it one time in many hours, and I can't even count the number of attempts. This is from Farmer13. This is hopefully the final version that he sends my way. So I honestly don't think I'll be able to pick this on camera in a reasonable amount of time ever. So I thought I'd like to show you what we got here. Let's first take a look at the core. There's a lot of weirdness built into this lock. I don't think there's any standard parts at all. So you can see right away, threaded, we have 1, 2, 5, and 6. Number 3 is kind of an oddity. I'm going to have to show you that pin. Really interesting. It's a lot more than simply a double wide that fits inside of there. And then the only normal core chamber in the whole core is pin number 4. So a lot of weirdness. Luckily it was a wide open keyway, so I could get some pretty wide, deep picks up in there, and believe me, it was absolutely required. By the way, I've got the key. It's still wrapped up in this little box, and if I remember at the end, which I hope I do, we will open that up and take a look. Okay, let's take a look at the core. It is an arrow core, and this means, I don't know how many of you guys can read this, but it says Bosnianbill sucks. And that would be true. Inside of here, when we take a look, in addition, we got threaded on chamber number 2. Chamber number 3 is that big fat double wide again. Number 4 is threaded, and all the rest are standard. So there was a lot of weirdness in terms of feel on this lock. I don't think, even if they'd all been threaded, the feel wasn't there because of these really weird pins. And I'm going to try something a little bit different here. I'm going to try to zoom in because I really want to point out some of the unique features of these pins. These are really weird. Let me get a probe here. All right, let's start first of all with the key pins. Obviously there's all 6 of them. Right away they look kind of normal until you look very closely, and you'll notice that this one has a little serrated piece with a breakaway. So you can get caught on serrations, you can get caught on a T-pin, or just all kinds of nastiness. And once you get that hung up, this part of the pin just simply falls back down into the keyway. Oh, just really nasty. So it leaves you to believe you got it picked when in fact you're hung up on serrations or a T-pin. This is kind of normal. We have a homemade serrated here, one serration designed to get hung up in there. This is really interesting. Now, this, I believe, is a copy, if I can get it here without dropping it. You notice it's a pin-in-pin design. There's a hole, come on baby, focus for me. Hole there, and there's a steel pin that fits down in the center of this thing. So really nasty. I'll take it apart here so you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. So you got a steel pin inside of that double wide fat key pin right there. This one is another one of these nasty little breakaways. It's exactly the same design, except here we only have one serration. Here, if there are any 2 normal pins in the whole lock, these are the 2. And these are both handmade, serrated, both very sharp. That one's double. This one has a serration, and then it's cut into a T-pin on the top there. So that's a lot of work went into just the lower pins. But it gets better as we go into the top here. On this one, let's see if I can grab this guy. I believe it's just a double serrated. Come here, you. Whoa, there went a spring. Yeah, this is just a double serrated one, and I don't know where that spring launched to. There we go. This one has another one of these steel insert pins that fits down inside of it, so if you don't get hung up on this serration, then you might get hung up on that serration, or when you do finally think you get it picked, it's going to drop this little steel pin right down there in the shear line. No love in this lock, trust me. This is a really interesting pin. In addition to that pin and pin on the bottom, we got kind of a pin and pin on the top. We have a very fat double wide pin. It's cut with a bunch of serrations, and they're not spaced. They're all very sharp, but they're spaced unequally. So if you're trying to count clicks, it might be a little hard. And then we see some true weirdness. There's a spring right here, and then there's a T-pin that actually fits inside of that. Let me grab a pair of tweezers here and see if I can assemble this thing the way it was in the lock, like that. So this little guy is always under pretty extreme spring tension. I'm not going to be able to do this and show you, I don't think. Anyway, he fits in there like that, and he's under spring tension, being forced down into the shear line under spring tension. Really nasty. And if that's not bad enough, that double wide is being forced down by spring tension from the top as well. And then we're getting into the more pedestrian stuff. We got another one of these steel insert pins into a double serrated handmade pin. And then, oh, it's just a boring old spool. Nothing unusual about that. Why do you throw that in there for? And the last one, another nasty one. It is almost, it looks like a top. We have, could be a T-pin on that side. This guy could treat you like a spool, and it could just fall away, leaving the upper part hanging up there. Unbelievable. All the springs are pretty much these brass springs. There's one with double coils here, and then there's a little bitty steel one beneath that spool. That spool just barely broke the shear line. Just very light tension to get this guy to. I think that was the last one I picked, and I was surprised when the lock turned open. Surprised. I think you can understand why now. I think I'll never be able to pick this thing in a reasonable amount of time, but I wanted Farmer13 to get some recognition for his Bosnianbill sucks arrow lock. Anyway, fellas, thanks for your time. Stay safe, stay legal. Farmer13, thank you, sir, for the lock. You always forget something until right after you turn the camera off. Let's take a look at the key. It is still in the original package. But after seeing how this thing was looked together, I don't think it really matters what the key looks like, to be honest with you. I don't think the key is the secret. Alright, there we go. Good bidding, obviously, but those pins are what make the difference in this lock. Thanks, guys.